Good morning and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share this program so that your friends can know exactly what you're up to this morning. Also, if you haven't already done so, please like and share. Or not like and share. I already told you to do that. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. And make sure in both cases to hit the notification button so that you can get the alerts as soon as we go live. Also, you guys already know it's coming. FPCgear.com, FPCgear.com. Cool place to go and find your Pro 2A swag and know that every dollar that you spend is going to go right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. So you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That's FPCgear.com. Talking about supporting the Second Amendment, you know, we deal with a lot. We deal with some of the challenges that, you know, it's just come to a realization that not all law enforcement leaders, not all leaders in law enforcement fully and wholly support and believe in the right to keep and bear arms. There are many who, in particular, work for anti-gun cities or city councils or are in anti-gun communities. And then there are those who value what they believe is creating public safety over our liberties. But one of the things that we're finding, as many legislatures and many as folks are, how shall we say, overstepping their bounds when it comes to their support of gun control, we're finding that there are sheriffs who are fighting back, who are deciding that they are not going to comply with a lot of this stuff. Now, the first place we started to see it was in the state of Washington, and when they instituted their I-1639. But now there is a huge movement in the state of Colorado, where they are focusing on and they're fighting against a red flag gun confiscation there in the state. And so I wanted to have a friend of the show back on to talk a little bit about that. And that would be our good friend, Leslie Hollywood from Rally for Our Rights. Leslie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us, what is going on there in the state of Colorado?
Well, so here in Colorado, last November, we saw a big blue sweep. Some very progressive anti-gun legislators took over our government, essentially every level from the state house to the state senate, the governor's office, even as far as attorney general and secretary of state. So we have a very blue, hyper-partisan makeup here in Colorado as far as our state government goes. So we knew we were definitely going to see some gun control drop, and we did. For us, it was this red flag emergency risk protection order. They have those rolling out across the country right now. I think 14 states have them in place. Colorado's is very unique, though. Ours is one of the absolute worst that exists in this country, in fact, which is why the pushback to it has been so severe with law enforcement. Ours is pretty crazy. There's a couple of different things. What the media will tell you is that if this becomes law, which it will, but what happens is that a family member or a household member or law enforcement could petition the courts to have the firearms removed from somebody who is deemed to be a threat to themselves or others. Now, what's really interesting when you actually get into the details of this 30-page bill, which I've read again and again, is that the definition of family and household member is actually pretty much anyone you've ever known. We're talking ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends, ex-spouses, former roommates, anyone that claims to have had an affair with you, step-siblings, step-parents, grandparents. I mean, it just goes on and on. Anyone you've ever gone on a date with, these are the people who can actually petition the court. So this is really serious. The other things about it, couple of things, just kind of the initial due process that it lacks, is it costs $0 to get it, and they only require a preponderance of evidence, which means there's a 51% chance that the accusation is true. And the petitioner can actually file over the phone. They don't even have to show their face in court or provide an address. And this is the craziest part. This is where this gets really, really dangerous. Colorado's law is actually coupled with a search warrant. a brand new search warrant that this bill actually creates. It's a civil search warrant that is specific to gun owners only. So the very first time the accused even knows this is happening, the police show up at their door with an order and a search warrant to come in and raid your home and find your firearms. 14 days later, you can then go to court and say this was all a false accusation, this was a lie, I'm not a threat to myself or others. Maybe get your firearms back. If not, 364 days is how long this would go into effect for. During those 364 days, you have one opportunity to petition the court to get your guns back. At that 364 days, it doesn't automatically expire. The petitioner can then come in and say, actually, this person shouldn't get their guns back, and it just starts all over again. So we're looking at a very, very dangerous piece of legislation that will go into law January 1st, 2020 here in Colorado. So based on that, once you get the information, you can see why gun owners in this state are scared and why law enforcement is pushing back so hard.
Well, I will tell you a lot. Everything that you just said that exists in your bill is already in place here in the state of California, and sadly, we only have 21 days. We have to wait 21 days before we get that hearing. But yeah, here they call it a gun seizure warrant, and it doesn't just allow them to search your home, your place of business, any place they think you might have a gun. So I hear exactly what you're saying.
That is how Colorado's is set up. Is yours? Is that the one that went into effect this past year, or has yours been in place for a while?
It's been in place since 2017, so it's been in place for a few years now. They've been trying to expand it. Like what they've done now in California is they've tried now. This is the third time they've tried to expand it to include people you go to wherever you go to school. People, instructors, like people who worked at a school that you went to up to 6 months ago, to include coworkers. I mean, they've tried to expand it pretty far. They also want to make it so they can last up to 5 years. So wow. That bill, the one that expands up to 5 years, is actually still moving. The other one we were able to get killed. And so anyway, so you were about to say, so needless to say, so some of your law enforcement have some issues with some of this.
Yeah, and the word some is definitely an understatement. We're talking almost every sheriff in the state has now come out against this bill. And I'm talking Democrat sheriffs and Republican sheriffs, and it doesn't matter. I mean, they don't even care. They are so angry over this because what they know is that it's going to get both citizens and law enforcement killed. And, Colorado is a very gun-heavy state. We like our firearms here. We got legalized pot and a lot of guns. That's Colorado for you. But it's just kind of the makeup. We're a very diverse state who really likes firearms.
And apparently pot.
And apparently pot. But it's kind of, it's a very libertarian state. We have a very, very heavy libertarian streak in this state of just wanting freedom. And so these sheriffs, and it's been really interesting finding some of the bedfellows that this law has created, or this bill has created. I mean, we've got libertarians and law enforcement on the same side right now, fighting against the what I call the elitist elected officials down at the Capitol. The people who are passing this law, when the law enforcement is saying no, and they're the ones who have to enforce it. And we have these elected officials down at the Capitol passing this, even when they're saying no, knowing that they never have to actually enforce it. And the people who do have to enforce it don't want it. But Colorado has 64 counties, and it's actually at this point easier to say how many sheriffs support it than how many don't. So out of 64 counties, we have 7 sheriffs who support this or are kind of neutral on it. So we're well over 50 sheriffs who are in opposition to it, many who are Democrats, and many who are actually just finding out about it. In the beginning, when the sheriffs started pushing back, they were kind of called rogue sheriffs and these cowboy sheriffs and whatnot. My own sheriff, Steve Reams, has been leading the fight with the sheriffs. But what's interesting is we actually now have had the Denver Police Union come out against this bill and the Aurora Police Union. So 2 of the most heavily populated, these aren't cowboy, these aren't cowboy cops. This is Denver, this is Aurora, and their police unions have come out in opposition to this because they know it's going to put their police officers, one, in harm's way, and two, they're going to be asked to enforce unconstitutional orders.
Now, let me ask you this: we have found that one of our biggest challenges is the leaders of the police unions here in the state of California tend to either be silent on gun control bills like this, or they tend to support them as long as their members are exempt. Do you guys have that? Is that the kind of same relationship you have with some of the, in particular, the larger police unions there in Colorado?
Well, so as far as in 2013, that was the last time that we really saw any gun control. And we haven't seen any since, but in 2013, people were recalled over passing gun control. So back then, they pretty much just stayed silent. They were just neutral on this. Because the thing is when it comes down to it, some of the laws we had passed back then, we have this 15 limit, this mag capacity, a ban, things like that. Police officers can choose to enforce it or not. They can say, I'm just going to ignore this person. Just like, as somebody who's jaywalking across the street, I'm not going to give them a ticket today, or I'm going to give them a ticket today. With laws like that, you can actually they have more discretion as to what they can and can't enforce. But when you actually have judicial orders coming out of the courts, they don't have a choice.
Right, they don't have a choice.
They can't decide that. And that's why I think we've seen the unions come up, because they know that these judicial orders are going to force their union members, these police officers, to do unconstitutional things, and dangerous things. So, and I talk a lot about the constitutionality of this bill. That's a huge concern, without a doubt. But I actually think that it's just downright dangerous. I mean, we are talking about sending armed law enforcement to raid the homes of gun owners.
When I testified in Nevada, it was interesting because you had law enforcement there who made it clear. They're like, look, when we go, we're not going, one or two officers, and we're not going taking flowers and candy. We're sending a team of officers, probably, maybe like a SWAT team. They're going to be in full tactical gear. They're going because, once again, the information they've been given is this individual is a danger to themselves or others and may have firearms. And they're not sending their officers into harm's way, and they're going to be prepared to disarm somebody. Now, you can't tell me that if the person is a danger to themselves or others, then you can't tell me that you're not creating a volatile situation. And if they aren't, and they just simply, once again, they don't know that this individual's coming. They don't know that these guys are coming. You can't tell me that that's not going to create a volatile situation, as, by the way, was the case of what happened in Maryland.
Oh, absolutely. And the situation in Maryland is a perfect example of what we will undoubtedly be seeing here in Colorado. These do create dangerous, volatile situations. And one thing that the Sheriff Reams, who's leading this fight with the sheriffs, one thing that he has said over and over again is that if we're going to go into somebody's home and we're going to take away their gun and leave them there, what kind of people are we? Where's our empathy? Where's our compassion? If we are actually trying to help these people, we would be removing the people from the situation and not the tool. If somebody is suicidal, let's go take their gun. Let's just escalate that situation, leave them in their home with knives, with pills, with cars. I mean, and then you think about other situations. And we actually had one of our state House representatives here testified about this. He said he grew up in a very violent home. Domestic violence was something that he dealt with all the time, but it wasn't necessarily with firearms. It was with, with other tools that, his parents would use. And he said he could only imagine what would happen if one of these, orders came out and they came into the home, removed the firearms. He said, from there, the situation would become so dangerous for him as a child to be in. But they don't remove anybody else. No. They just want to take away the guns. And that's one of the most disgusting parts of this, is that if we truly cared about the people who are suicidal, or we cared about stopping school shootings, or these different things, all these things that they use as a reason to push these kind of gun confiscation laws, we would actually be addressing the people. How can we take these people out of these situations? Suicide is a huge problem in this country. I lost my sister to suicide 4 years ago. She didn't use her firearm to do it. She used a bottle of pills that was prescribed by her doctor. If we truly care about these people, we'll have some empathy, but all they care about is taking away the guns, and they don't care if there's any collateral damage.
Well, and with that, the interesting thing about, and I've never seen this in most of these measures, is that they talk about this as about mental health. But at no point is there any sort of a mental health evaluation. At no point is a mental health professional included in any of this discussion, whether it's before the guns are taken or even after the firearms are taken. And in most cases, they don't tell you, how do I prove that I am not a danger to myself or others? We've seen that you have prosecutors that discourage individuals from having legal representation when they go to these hearings. Because I'm thinking, okay, well, I probably need to get a lawyer. I would probably need to go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a mental health professional to write some sort of a letter saying that I'm not a danger to myself or others. In fact, they're so off in their evaluation that they've determined that in places where, like in Connecticut and in Indiana, where they have some of the strictest requirements, like we're talking, it requires corroboration, right? There has to be some corroboration with the story, so you can't just go in and tell a story. You have the opportunity to face the accuser. After your right's been taken, but where there's places with the strictest standards before they issue the warrant, they still found that over 30% of the time, they had to give the guns back because the person actually wasn't a danger to themselves or others. So 1/3 of the time, your rights gone.
Yeah, and 1/3 of the time, these people are being falsely accused of something, and we're talking. Yeah, and that's exactly it. In many other states, the level is much different. The evidentiary threshold, all of that stuff from the get-go to actually remove the firearms is so much higher, and we're talking 30% in those states. So you could just imagine what's going to happen somewhere here, like here in Colorado.
Oh yeah, where people can just call in. Where people actually never have to go before a judge, where even when you do go to court, you don't get a chance to cross-examine that witness. In none of those cases do you actually get due process.
Yeah, well, and even in our bill, if people want to, they can do this anonymously. If they can convince the court, this person shouldn't know who I am. I don't want to give my name. They can actually anonymously petition the courts. I mean, I just can't even believe it. And we pushed this really, really hard. The bill was introduced on February 14th. Of course, it was to honor the Parkland shooting, saying that if this bill had been in place then, they could have stopped him, which is just absolute crap. I mean, it could have been stopped many, many times, and it's the government who failed in those cases.
Oh, but they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about that.
Oh, no, but it's just like, let's just use these victims as a reason to push for gun control that will get more people killed. It makes me so sick to my stomach, because I truly care. I mean, I've got kids in school. We all care about the safety of this country. We don't want to see firearms in the hands of dangerous individuals. But this isn't it. This is not the answer.
No, it most definitely is not. Tell folks a little bit more about your organization, Rally for Our Rights, and how they can, if they're in the state of Colorado, how they can get involved in the work that you guys are doing there.
Sure. So Rally for Our Rights, we actually started about a year ago in response to the March for Our Lives. Once I saw all these, hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets wanting to take away the gun rights of their fellow citizens, I decided, it's time for the gun rights advocates to get out into the streets too. And that's when we started. And since then, we do street demonstrations, we get involved in city councils, we get involved with the state legislature, federal level, everything that we can do. We're very activist, frontline activism focused. I always say we differ from like RMGO or the NRA, because we, instead of asking for money, saying, give us your money, we'll fight for you, we're saying, here's a platform to help you fight for your own rights. And we're like thousands and thousands strong here in Colorado. It's been great. We did an awesome job fighting against this bill. In the end, it only passed by one vote. The red flag only passed by one vote. And we're talking every Republican and 3 Democrats voted against it. That's how hard we pushed back, and we did a great job. I'm very proud of our efforts, even if it's still, going to become law. But yeah, rallyforourrights.com is our website. We do have a big event coming up on May 18th. It's called Take Back the Second, and it's going to be at the Capitol in Denver from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Lots of great speakers. Sheriff Reams will be there. We have Evan Todd, who's a Columbine High School shooting survivor. We're going to have some really great stuff going on that day. All the information about that is on our website, rallyforourrights.com. We're also on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. We are everywhere, and we are growing fast. So if you're in Colorado, definitely get connected.
Fantastic. Leslie, thank you so much. Thank you for all of the work that you do. I tell people all the time, people are like, well, Craig, how come FPC's not doing this, or how come the NRA is not doing that? And what I always try to tell folks is, number one, activism, just like politics. The best politics are local. The best activism is local. And when you see something that's going on, in particular in your neck of the woods, that needs to be addressed, the best people to handle it, the best people to step up are you, because you see the problem. And what I always find is I just find that people respond more to that grassroots activism at home. I don't see more gun rights groups as competition. I see us as partners. And I think that's a real strength, and I think that the work that you guys are doing there in Colorado is phenomenal. And I just want to take my hat off to you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I agree. I think that we are all partners, and we aren't competition. We all work on a different level, and we do different things. And the more there are of us, the stronger we're going to become, and we can really start pushing back against some of this stuff.
Amen. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Leslie, once again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, everybody, that is Leslie Hollywood from Rally for Our Rights. All right, well, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing this program, telling your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them, or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.